everyone. My name is Priyakshi. Today I am glad to speak with Mr. Bhuwan Purohit, Executive Director at Gujarat-based Rubamin Pvt Ltd. So, Rubamin has been transforming hazardous industrial waste into useful chemicals for over 3 decades. And they are now aggressively working on a large-scale circular economy project to help extract critical battery materials from used lithium-ion battery packs. So let's find out more about their business outlook and recycling plans. Mr. Purohit, welcome to EV Reporter Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Priyanshi.
Sure, sir. To get started, can you please tell us about the current industrial waste recycling business that Rubamin has been working on for several years?
Yeah, so Rubamin as a company started 40 years back with recycling. So it's almost 4 decades now. And it adopted hydrometallurgy, which is the solvent extraction process, about 30 years back. And what we have been doing so far is treating hazardous waste coming out of multiple industrial processes. And the key metals that we work on include zinc, molybdenum, tungsten, vanadium, cobalt, nickel, and copper. Though copper is not from the industrial source as of now. So, and now we are moving ahead into the lithium side also by using the batteries or waste battery black mass as input to our extraction process.
Right, sir. And what prompted you to enter LIB recycling? What kind of synergies do you derive from your existing operations to enter this new business?
To tell you honestly about what prompted us, it was the fact that we were doing nickel, cobalt, manganese, for decades. But actually what prompted us to get into lithium-ion batteries was our search for more cobalt units. Quite honestly, we are recyclers and not battery manufacturers or battery people. We talk in metric tons and not in gigawatt hours. So for us, it was more a hunt for a cobalt-rich secondary material, which led us to the battery black mass, and that it further led us to the batteries. So that's how it started. There is a lot of synergy. If you ask me from the existing operations, we are adopting a solvent extraction as the key method to extract all the metals in the battery black mass. And the old business kind of gives us the edge on the R&D side, because we've been into R&D for almost 25 years and have a large team of scientists working on the hydrometallurgy process. There is the people, the process, the infrastructure that we have built over so many decades of operation. There is this flexibility in operations, which we have learned over time. The experience, the approvals, and the customer base and the history of being a responsible recycler. I think all those kind of help us in our new project for battery recycling. And that's what will give us the edge, I believe.
Right. So you already have a Kilo Lab, that's your demo plant. So if you could give us some insight into the operations that are being performed at the Kilo Lab.
One of the most funny things about the Kilo Lab is that the Kilo Lab was sanctioned after the project for lithium-ion battery got sanctioned. So very rarely companies usually go from a lab scale onto a bench scale and then a pilot and then a mega plant. Rubamin, owing to its experience and the knowledge in this process, the board approved the factory construction, which is already halfway through. And we also approved the Kilo Lab because we wanted people to see it to believe it, because there were not many international and Indian players who were willing to believe that an Indian company could actually extract metals with high purity without waste. And we decided to have a small plant in action, and it's running. We are already submitting samples to large battery and electronics companies of our material, so that we can hasten the approval processes. So by the time the plant is up in July next year, we are in a good state to go ahead and let the business roll.
Right. Okay. And overall, we hear that hydrometallurgy particularly is a very resource intensive process, and there is a big environmental footprint of this process. So I wanted to understand from you, how do you, your proprietary process minimizes waste, and how do you make the process sustainable?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And, I do hear that, but I don't know why people say that. I mean, yes, it is a very intensive process. It's a very complex process. But over time, with research, with practice, with experience, we have been able to minimize, in fact, eradicate to a great extent the impact on the waste side. So Rubamin actually has a 65-acre green recycling complex in Halol, Gujarat, and we have zero waste from that plant. There's nothing going to a landfill. And it is a zero liquid discharge as well. So very few hydrometallurgy plants are zero liquid discharge. To add to it, the existing operations where we treat other industrial waste is already more than 30% circular in nature. We have a World Business Council of Sustainable Development's circular transitory indicator score of 30%, which means in terms of the quantum of material that comes into a plant, 30% goes back to the same supply chain, making the operation circular. So there is high circularity. There is zero waste, and somewhere Rubamin has coined itself a dream that as we created a lake which now serves 50% water to the unit, and our idea is to become completely non-dependent on river water or groundwater, so that water is one important resource we would want to de-link ourselves from. And then we are trying to now move into a 100% renewable energy source, so no fossil energy, and we call it the power of zero. So the dream is that in some time, finite time, Rubamin will be able to eradicate 100,000 tons of hazardous toxic waste from the country with zero waste, zero water, zero renewable power, zero carbon, and zero linearity if possible. That the last one is tough one, but we are trying to see how best we can achieve those numbers.
Right.
Sometimes we call it the nirvana of recycling. There's nothing better than that in the world. And it's a very, very unique process that way.
Understood. And if we talk about specifically with respect to lithium-ion battery recycling, how it stands today in India. So most of the companies involved in collection of spent batteries, they are into mechanical separation, and the black mass is mostly being exported out of the country. So I would like to understand from you, what are those factors that prohibit most of the companies to enter the next stage, that is metal extraction, refining the black mass? Is it the technical complexity of the process? Is it the capital? Is it a mix of other things as well?
So you're very right at that. Yes, it is all of them. So it's a very, very capital intensive. So, a typical battery shredding unit for 10,000 tons of battery would cost you, depending on where you source the technology from, it can cost you anywhere from a couple of crores to maybe 15 crores. But to set up a unit of hydrometallurgy to extract metals from that 10,000 tons of battery will cost you anywhere between 400 to 600 crores. So we are talking very heavy investment, very large land footprint. So you have to arrange land. Then there is one of the most important part is the technology, because extracting those metals is not just the metal is not important. You have to convert them into usable products, which could be chemicals or which could be metals of high purity. So meeting the criteria of a battery supplier or battery manufacturer or a sensitive industrial customer is itself a very, very difficult task. So technology, of course, is one of the very big deterrent. And another one is the environmental challenges that this process brings to you. unless you are adept at the technology, unless you know it, there would always be waste. There would be hazardous waste coming out of the units which need to be dealt with, and it is very environmentally challenging. So those are the key challenges that stop people from making investment into refining capabilities.
Understood. So, what is Rubamin's plan? What kind of scale are you targeting when you start in July 2024? And what kind of investments are you planning to achieve that scale?
Well, the investments are already underway. So we have a 525 crores of outlay. And the tonnages are about 5,000 tons of battery black mass will get treated and extracted. Beyond that, yes, there are plans, but they haven't been crystallized yet because we are awaiting the results from the first plant and also talking to multiple companies and possible partners internationally and within India, trying to evolve a strategy and evolve a plan. I mean, the next number could be anything. This 5,000 ton is a pilot plant for Rubamin, and I would assume that the number could be anywhere ranging from 20,000 to 25, maybe 50,000. I don't know. Those numbers have not been finalized, but they will get done over time once this facility comes into action and once we see the results of the products and the yields and the costs at which we are able to do this.
Right. And you start at the black mass, or are you also going to collect and do the mechanical separation part as well?
Well, initially, our thought was to continue with the black mass, but I believe after studying the particular industry closely, we've come to realize that our customers, our people we want to service, they want to have a one-stop shop, to have a clear view of their material, and to have it responsibly treated. And so we have decided that we will, going forward, we will do the mechanical separation or disassembly or segregation or shredding, if you may call it. Those operations will be built in along with this plant, which is on a pilot scale, yeah. And that will be for 10,000 tons battery shredding, yeah.
Okay, understood. And the end product, the extracted metals, what kind of customer base do you think will find value, especially in India? Do you think there will be a lot of takers for the metals that you produce at the moment?
Yeah, of course. There is no doubt. It is. I mean, we would want to serve the Indian market completely. And India, the government in India has made some very positive investment, if I may say so, towards incentivizing the demand side. So we have the EV sales getting picked up. They have done a lot of work on the schemes which are helping the advanced chemistry cell production in the country. There are already units which have come alive. Even in Gujarat, we have one which is live and kicking. So we will have a lot more investment going into the battery segment, and all those players, with the focus of the government of India on the critical metals and now on ensuring domestic value addition. I see that we will have all our customers from India, and we will be able to service them with the demand for critical metal-based compounds.
Right. And in terms of customer qualification, there will always be comparison with virgin metals. What kind of assurances do they need from your side to make sure that the procurements they are doing are as good as the virgin materials?
Well, to tell you, actually none from Rubamin, because we are well known for this. I think Rubamin currently recycles over 20,000 tons of spent oil catalyst from refineries. And we extract molybdenum, tungsten, vanadium, cobalt, and nickel. And we send them back to catalyst producers who are, if not more, equally sensitive to impurity profiles, to purities, and to physical parameters, whether it is the morphology or the surface areas or the bulk density of the product. So So we have been selling the material back against virgin competition. So the competition is providing them virgin chemicals from the virgin raw materials. In fact, they love it because now more and more responsible companies are moving towards green products, and they need recycled product as a part of their supply chain. And I think they are willing to give a premium also. So in fact, Rubamin gets premium for its product because they are not only green, but they are equally good in quality as compared to any primary product. And I think the same logic extends to battery. And once the plant gets into operation, in fact, our Kilo Lab is already submitting samples to companies, and they are finding the product to be of high quality. So let me tell you one thing, that if the product is not as good as primary, then you can't sell it. Not in batteries. You may sell it in industrial products, which can take a variation. But in batteries, you will need to give top-class product. And I think our process is capable of doing that.
Understood. So do you see any particular challenges, though you already have a proprietary hydrometallurgy process, which could be a challenge for anybody new who's entering the space? You already have an investment lined up. So apart from that, what kind of recommendations or policy support do you think will help the companies like yours or new businesses help set up this large-scale operations for recycling?
Well, to tell you, the biggest risk to large investments in India is that in recycling, you cannot have unscrupulous players enter the segment and destroy the businesses. I mean, there are times when we allow certain investments or certain businesses to crop up because there is a need for those businesses in the country. But as the time goes by, it becomes very difficult because the damage is much more. So it is important that we curb them right in the beginning in this segment, which is, if you want to see serious players, if you want to see good quality material, if you want to see responsible recycling, if you want to have circularity, if you want to have zero waste, the law has to be enforced very, very strictly. I think other than that, well, if that is done, you have a level playing field and you have good players, serious investment, good technology coming into the country. And I think that would be, already the CPCB and MOEF have declared that the waste coming out of the used batteries is a hazardous waste and must be treated accordingly. So the only thing I would expect is that law is implemented in all its true meaning and sense and spirit. That's one. And the second is that the challenge is to supply side, because this is a new industry. And I mean, in a new industry, there is always a delta or a timeline mismatch between when the market props up for the supply side becomes strong or the market demand becomes strong. There is always a gap. And that gap needs to be patched up so that businesses feel secure and they can invest the right amount of money. So I think if there was only one thing which I would say, it would be that while the waste batteries and the waste coming out of the shredding or dismantling or disassembly or, all those wastes have been regarded as hazardous, but the import of black mass and the import of used batteries must be permitted to the authorized recyclers to prevent this gap of supply chain. And as it is, black mass and used batteries are the new urban mining. They are the biggest resource. Government has already recognized the critical metals in its policy. And I think the import should be allowed to units which are registered, authorized, zero waste, circular. There can be no better mine for India than to allow the imports of these material. And black mass, so far as is going out of the country, I think once we have good amount of recyclers in India or extractors in India like Rubamin, there would be no need to export. I mean, it'll be economically unviable to export out of the country because you will get a better price in the country.
Correct. Correct. Understood. So thank you so much, Mr. Purohit, for your time today.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak my mind out, and I wish you all the very best for your event and hope that the next time we can be a part of it more closely.
Of course, we look forward to that as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.